What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance Crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. Today I got another Geography Now video for you guys. This video is Geography Now Iran. This is another part in the first couple countries I was going to go ahead and react to before I went and start looking at some of the other countries in no particular order. These first three were going to be dedicated to the oldest countries in the world, or the oldest civilizations in the world. So I already did a video on Egypt. I already did a video on India, and I've already done a video on China. Now this video is dedicated to Iran, which is also one of, if not one of the first civilizations on Earth. Iran is a country that is absolutely abundant when it comes to older relics, when it comes to older important sites in human history, when it comes to areas and things like that, and when it comes to art, everything. There's so much stuff in Iran that goes so far back and is so historic that it's something that absolutely interests the hell out of me. For me, it goes for everything. If I ever met a Chinese person, I would ask them things first, if they're in America, I would just ask them regular shit like, hey, what's up, where you work at, stuff like that. But if we ever had a chance to sit down and have a deep talk, so I would end up asking them questions about heritage and ancestry and things like that. I would love to know what my ancestry was. At some point, I need to do an ancestry.com so I can study more about my own background. But I love listening to people's backgrounds. If you guys have been on any of my other videos, you know that whenever I'm reacting to something like this, I always ask people if they happen to be from this area, if they have a story that they can tell in the comment section. Do you happen to have a family tree that goes back a long time? Do you have any relatives that were part of any type of historical events? Do you happen to have any relics, memorabilia, family heirlooms that go back centuries, things like that? That's interesting to me. And Iran is just another one of those countries that, if anybody happens to be from Iran or have family that originates from Iran, if you happen to have any type of deep connections with them in any way, leave them in the comment section so that we can go ahead and hear about your family history, and we can encourage others to go out and search and look up interesting things that they might be able to find in their family. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Obviously, this video was uploaded by Geography Now. I will have a link for their video at the end of this video that you can click on. You can go to their channel, watch all their videos, subscribe, like, all the other good stuff. If you haven't already seen this original video, I highly encourage you to go and watch it on their channel first. You can go ahead and pause the video right now. I'm not going anywhere. Hell, it's half the time YouTube will save where you last left off on a video. Go watch the original video first and then come back and watch the reaction. So with that being said, hopefully at this point you've already watched it. If you've already seen it, you're already good. And let's go ahead and check this out.
Do not call most of these people Arabs.
It's time to learn geography.
No! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbie. Okay, let me break this down so you can quickly
Fish
get the
with teeth
distinction.
always
You've heard of
is
Persia,
weird
right?
to me.
The Persian Empire, Persian rugs, Persian cats, the Prince of Persia, which by the way, Disney got incredibly accurate. Yes, Persia is pretty much synonymous with Iran. Now, not everyone in Iran is Persian, but it's a huge part of their story, which we will begin discussing now. Okay, let's be frank. Iran seems to get their fair share of the news quite often in the Western media. However, conflict issues aside, Iran has a deep history and story in the Middle East that extends millennia in the past that would probably be wise to educate yourself on. First of all, Iran is located in Western Asia, bordered by 7 other countries, as well as the Caspian Sea to the north, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman to the south, divided by the Strait of Hormuz, which is like one of the most important sea passages in the world.
Hey, it's Arabian Gulf.
Most people have called it Persian Gulf, and it's been that way for centuries. Plus, Arabs have their own sea. Just let them have it. The country is divided into 31 provinces, with the capital Tehran located in the north-central region. Now keep in mind, before Tehran, Iran actually had 30 previous capitals throughout their history, more than any other country in the world. Otherwise, Iran also divides the country into 5 non-constituent unit regions for administrative purposes, each one containing 6 provinces, except for one region containing 7, which also includes the capital. Finally, although they are administered by Iran, the country also has a current dispute over the Abu Musa and the Greater and Lesser Tum Islands with the United Arab Emirates nearby the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. After Tehran, the largest cities are Mashhad in the east and Isfahan in the center, and the largest airports are of course Tehran's 2 twins, Mehrabad and Imam Khomeini International, Mashhad International, and Shiraz International. Iran also takes ownership of about 30 or so islands in the Gulf and technically 1 island in the Caspian Sea, Ashur Ade Island, which however it's kind of more like a loose peninsula. One thing you have to understand is that Iran takes their position and borders very seriously, as they are kind of like a land bridge located right at the crossroads between the Middle East, the Caucasus, as well as the Central and South Asian regions. The most important and largest seaport would be Bandar Abbas, which also houses the Iranian Navy, located right at the entrance at the Strait of Hormuz. Otherwise, due to its incredible history, Iran is overflowing with landmarks and sites. Some of the top notable ones might include places like Nakhshe-Jahan Square, Milad Tower, Golestan Palace, Persian Garden, the Armenian monastic ensembles of Iran, the Tomb of Hafez, the Azadi Tower Freedom Monument, the Pigeon Tower, Yazd, the holiest place for Zoroastrians, Chogazanbil Ziggurat, the Mayamand Cave Village, the Imam Reza Shrine, the Khaju Bridge, Argebam, the Shushtar hydraulic system, the Tomb of Cyrus the Great, the Tomb of Daniel. Too many famous mosques and shrines to list, and pretty much everything in Persepolis. Iran was able to build so much of their own personal space, partially due to the fact that they were easily well protected by natural boundaries, or barricaded in. You decide. Let's explain in. You know what's funny? The world's hottest surface temperature ever recorded was 70.7 degrees Celsius in the Lut Desert in Iran, and yet Iran is also like the best ski resort area in the Middle East. First of all, Iran's most important topographical barriers are the Zakhros Mountains in the west, which also contain the largest lake, Urmia, and the mountains also feed the longest river, the Karun, in the south, which flows into the Gulf, as well as the Alborz Mountains along the north, which contain the largest mountain, Mount Damavand, which is also the tallest volcano in all of Asia, like it's still active. There's so much mining potential in these mountains as well, which makes Iran the largest producer of turquoise and zinc. Otherwise, they have 2 main deserts, the Kavir and Lut, located in the central plateau, and the only real flat part of Iran is in the Khuzestan region right next to Iraq. Iran is right on the boundary of the Arabian and Eurasian tectonic plates, which in return makes Iran the country with the most number of major earthquakes, of at least 5.5 on the Richter scale annually.
Mine are bigger.
Yeah, well, mine are explodier. Now,
That's weird. I've never really heard of any earthquakes from Iran. Now, maybe I haven't been paying attention, but I never, like, usually whenever there's an international, like, big earthquake, it usually makes the American news. I haven't heard any news from, maybe they're covering up for all I know because it's Iran. I don't know. It's possible.
Of at least 5.5 on the Richter scale annually.
Mine are bigger.
Yeah, well, mine are explodier. Now, Iran is kind of like this strange anomaly that sticks out from the rest of the Middle East because it has alpine mountains with flowers and snow and water and green, especially in the north along the coast of the Caspian. I mean, sure, there are dry, arid deserts too, but overall, Iran is a lot more lush. This allows them to harbor river valleys for agriculture, which makes them the #1 producer of pistachios, saffron, stone fruits. By the way, Iranians love saffron. They put it in like half of everything. Speaking of which, some top foods from Iran might include things like pomegranate walnut stew, kuku, mirza kasemi, various rice dishes like jeweled rice, bakala, lubia, shirin, various kebabs like juje, kubide, torsh, and bakhyari, desserts like rosewater pudding, khalva, sarshir, bami, nokhotchi, and falude. By the way, half those dishes had saffron in them. Alcohol is technically banned, however, people kind of smuggle it in and have their connections. Even the cops are kind of getting tired of trying to crack down, and many just look the other way and deal with other bigger things. 2 other things Iran cannot live without: tea and caviar. In fact, Iran is the largest producer of caviar in the world, mostly from sturgeons fished off the coast of the Caspian. Speaking of which, Iran surprisingly has quite an array of wildlife, including gazelles, wolves, falcons, storks, buzzards, and of course the famous Persian cat. Speaking of cats, Iran is home to some of the last only few remaining surviving Persian lions, which is by the way the national animal, Persian leopards, and yes, even Asiatic cheetahs.
Wait, aren't those like African animals?
Actually, a lot of animals
Punch
we
him.
affiliate with Africa
Punch
have
him.
historically roamed all across the Middle East and Southern Asian regions, which is why today we have elephants in India, rhinos in Indonesia. Unfortunately, most of them have been killed off or are incredibly endangered. The more you, unfortunately, know. The biggest natural resource, though, would have to be, no surprise, oil. Iran is the second largest oil producer in the Middle East after Saudi Arabia, and about 60% of their total reserves are located around the Persian Gulf. It's estimated that the country should have about 125 billion barrels in reservoirs, 10% of the world's total reserves, and they pump out about 4 million barrels a day. That's a lot. So with all the geographic isolation but abundance of resources, you might wonder, what is life like in Iran? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Now, Iran is interesting because it's caught in this strange new transition period in which everything in the new generation of millennials has a tincture of subtle defiance. First of all, Iran has about 80 million people and is the second most populated country in the Middle East after Egypt and has the highest number of Shias in the world. About 62% of the country is ethnically Persian, whereas the second largest ethnic groups are the Azeris at about 16%, Kurds at about 10%, while the remainder is made up of smaller but noticeable groups like the Lurs, the Baluchis, Arabs, Turkic groups, and others. They also use the Iranian rial as their currency. They use the type CEF outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now let's emphasize this one more time. Persians are not Arabs. That's like the worst thing you can say to them. First of all, what is it like to be a Persian? Well, you kind of have to understand that Iran evolved a lot differently from all the other countries in the Middle East. History will take way too long to explain, but the quickest way I can put it, Proto-Elamites, Elam, Median Empire, Persian or Achaemenid Empire, Alexander the Great, the Seleucid, Parthian, and Sassanid empires. Islam enters through the Umayyad Caliphate, the Abbasid Caliphate, Saffarids and Samanids come in from the east, then some weird splitting up, the Ghaznavid, Seljuk, and Khwarezmian empires, Mongols, the Ilkhanate, Timurid, Safavid, and Afsharid empires, the Zand and Qajar dynasties, quick Pahlavi dynasty, Islamic Republic, a little drama here and there, and here we are today. Now, the biggest
little
distinction
drama
of
here and
Iran
there.
would probably be the language. The official language of Iran is Persian or Farsi, an Indo-European language also spoken in Afghanistan and Tajikistan, although they have their own dialects, which is completely unintelligible to Arabic. The second largest distinction would be that they are the largest Shia Muslim country in the world with doctrines that run their ideologies and legislation. If you don't know the difference between Sunnis and Shias, basically, Shias believe that Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law Ali was supposed to be the rightful successor rather than Abu Bakr, who became the first caliph. If you don't know what any of that means, let me make it even easier. Shias, this guy. Sunnis, no, this guy. Done. The interesting thing, though, is that Persians still hold on to a lot of ancient Persian customs and traditions that predate even Islam. For example, for over 3,000 years, Persians and other Persian-related people groups across the world still celebrate Nowruz, or Persian New Year, usually on March 21st, or the vernal equinox. A mostly secular holiday, however, it actually has roots and is considered holy to Zoroastrians. Zoroastrianism actually started in Iran and at one point was actually the state religion. Persians also have their own distinct art, which usually depicts human figures more often than other Sunni cultures. They have their own traditions, clothing, music, opera, poetry, sports. I mean, polo was invented here, and they have that ancient warrior training thing. They have handicrafts. I mean, everybody knows that Persian rugs are like some of the most sought after in the world. But remember,
that's
not
where
all
the Iron
Iranians
Sheik
are
gets them
Persians,
from.
and some of these groups have expressed separatist movement desires in the past, but with pretty much no actual success. The second largest group, the Turkic Azeris, or Azerbaijanis, mostly live in the northwest along the borders of Turkey and the Caucasus regions, where their cousins, the actual Azerbaijanis in Azerbaijan, live. They are basically the same people, except one group speaks Farsi. Although exact numbers are kind of hard to estimate, today there are about twice as many to 3 times more Azeris living in Iran than there are in Azerbaijan. Then you have the Kurds that live along the west as well, and then you have the Arabs that mostly inhabit the flat Khuzestan areas by Iraq. You have the Baluchi people in the southwest along the border with Pakistan. Each of these people groups has their own language, culture, and history. Oh, and keep in mind, Persia is mentioned numerous times in the Bible. Iranian Jews believe that they are descended from Queen Esther, and they, as well as Christians, believe that King Cyrus was prophesied in the book of Isaiah. Speaking of which, although the vast majority of the population is Shia Muslim, there are communities of non-Muslims, mostly Christians and Jews. However, outside religions are strictly monitored and confined to only a few places of worship, as it is illegal to build churches or synagogues. Selling of literature is illegal, and apostasy from a Muslim is punishable, which is funny because just like in China, Iran has one of the fastest growing underground Christian communities in the world, and disputedly the most in the Middle East. So how does Iran hold all these people together? Well, in order to speed up the Persian assimilation process, other languages are banned from schools, and they have a system in which cooperation is rewarded and resistance is punished by the IRGC. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, because banning and punishing things is a great way to contain them. That never backfires. Ever throughout history, right? Am I right?
Join us, and the rewards shall be bountiful.
I have my own thing going on, but thanks.
Join us, and the rewards shall be bountiful. Speaking of which, the government is a little confusing. You have both the regular legislators, and then you have the theocratic leaders. Essentially, the Ayatollah has the most power. He is not only the leader of the country, but also the entire Shia community inside and outside of Iran. He's selected by a community of clerics called the Assembly of Experts, whom also have authority to approve all of the presidential candidates during election time. From there, the president appoints people to the various ministries and offices, whereas the Ayatollah appoints the military leader and handles all other various duties. I don't want to say the Ayatollah is like the Pope of the Shia faith, but in some ways he kind of is. This is kind of where the Islamic Revolution comes into play and where all the modern drama with Iran kind of starts. Long story short, they took down the Shah, which they believed was a Western puppet figure, and then they instituted a more conservative Islamic republic. This changed everything.
To be fair, he probably was a puppet figure.
This was all nearly half a century ago. Today, an entirely new generation of modernized, digital, tech-savvy Iranians has entered the stage, and the country is seeing a completely new culture shift that they can't stop. About 70% of the country is under 30 years old, many of whom don't really even like the rules, which means you have a lot of intrepid youths running the show now. Even the police are getting way more lenient because
and like I said, because controlling and restricting stuff is a great way to keep control over something. It's not going to backfire, especially when more and more of the population starts to be born and grow up and, you know, not like the current system that's in place. That's never going to change.
Police are getting younger too. Everyone in Iran is now kind of trying to find like loopholes and subtle cheats to avoid the religiously imposed laws. Although the hijab is required for all women in public, most women just loosely wear it, exposing their necks and front hair, almost as if it's like a fashion accessory rather than a religious article. Skateboarding, punk rock, and metal culture has already penetrated the youth, even women, although it's interesting because it's like Persian punk rock and metal. People meet at underground clubs and parties all the time wearing whatever they want with open bars and music. If you catch them in their element, Persians are actually seriously like some of the most fun people you'll ever meet. And the crazy thing is, everybody knows about this. It's nothing shockingly new to the police or government. It gives them a little bit of a headache, but after half a century, it's kind of like, dude, whatever. Yeah, you didn't really expect that, did you? Persian punk rock rebels with hijabs and skateboards, right? And that's what goes on in the inside. Now let's see how they reach out.
Now that's fashion for your ass.
Now here's where things get a little tricky because in order to understand Iran's outside relations, again, you kind of have to look at Iran through the lens of both pre- and post-1979 revolution. First of all, Iraq is sometimes called Arab Iran, although don't say that to them, as they have the second highest population of Shias and hold two incredibly important holy Shia sites. They've mostly moved on from the war in the 80s, and the two have good ties, mostly. Afghanistan and Tajikistan are like their cousins that have different political views, and it's awkward when they have dinner together, but nonetheless, they still mostly get along. Russia and Venezuela are probably the best friends outside of the Middle East, as Hugo Chavez frequently visited Ahmadinejad and made numerous trade deals. The Iranian car company Khodro is imported and partially manufactured in Venezuela, and Russia was like a key ally in many of the war conflicts post-revolution. Surprisingly, they are also one of the few countries that have kind of decent ties to North Korea. They've pledged cooperation in education and cultural spheres in the past. The Azerbaijanis of the north, of course, love Azerbaijan, no surprise. Bahrain is like Saudi Arabia's girlfriend that they keep trying to flirt with and steal. When it comes to their best friends, though, most Iranians I talk to have said probably Syria and Turkey, although it's a little complicated, especially with all the current drama going on. Turkey and Iran have more or less always been on good terms, especially in business. They are working on a plan to enter the European petroleum industry to rival Russia. Each country makes up a large population of tourists that visit each other every year. Syria, or more specifically the Syrian government, has more or less worked alongside with Iran numerous times in the past and has been a key ally not only in diplomacy but also strategically, as they kind of give them access to the Mediterranean. In conclusion, Iran is kind of like a land that is constantly trying to figure out a way to reconcile the revolutionary ideals upon a fast-paced social media-induced generation of quiet culture rebels while simultaneously dealing with outside stigma. What will Iran look like in 20 years? I don't know, but one thing we do know is that the young people will be ruling it. Stay tuned. Iraq is coming up next.
That's not how it's going to work at all. So before I go ahead and get into my post-video, I guess, rant, really like diatribe or something like that, I just want to go ahead and let you guys know again, be sure to check out Geometry Now. I will leave a link for their channel at the end of this video. Usually the last 30 seconds of the video, it'll pop up. You can click on it. It'll go straight to their channel. You can subscribe to them. You can like their videos. You can go watch their videos, all that other good stuff. So like I said, I always encourage you guys to go and check out their channels, at least after you're done. Sometimes a lot of people who watch my videos will say that they didn't know anything about like the channel or the video. So this is your chance to go and check them out. You know, you might find some more videos that you enjoy. But yeah, politics and things like that are always iffy. When you start banning stuff and making stuff restrictive, it kind of adds like a forbidden fruit variable to whatever it is you're trying to keep people out of. It makes them want it even more. So eventually, it's going to backfire on you big time. I've already told you guys I'm not really a really big religious person. As a matter of fact, I'm an atheist. But I hate when I see countries that have so much history and stuff like that get weighed down by things like religion and stuff that pretty much restricts it from being able to fully embrace the cultures and things like that. Now, when it comes to like Iran, they've had Islam and stuff like that in their country for a very long time. So at this point, a lot of what Islam is kind of intertwined into their culture and stuff like that. So at the same time, like they pretty much like whatever Islam is, their culture it kind of is at the same time. But I would like to experience Iran as far as everything before that and see just to see how people would be if religion hadn't have like influenced anybody. Well, it's kind of hard to say because before Islam there was still religion. It just wasn't Islam. That goes with a lot of stuff. I feel like because religion it like restricts a lot of scientific discoveries and being able to culturally like get out there and explore and open yourself up to the world and things like that. Like they tend to be very restrictive and you can only do this and you can only do this, and it's like, okay, there's all these restrictions and you can't really fully understand like what a person is fully capable of because you're holding yourself back to these specific rules, these rules that always end up getting outdated as time goes on and become more and more irrelevant, and it slows down progression and things like that. I mean, with all that being said, now I'm not saying that religion makes people bad or turns people into certain types of other people. I mean, in some cases that does happen, but I mean, I also understand that like you can still be a perfectly good person and a lot of times still be able to progress as a religious person. But I would have to argue that at the same time, a person that tends to do stuff like that tend to not be someone that is extremely religious. Like they tend to be a little bit more lenient and like open and liberal to the ideas of, you know, having their own personal expressions. That goes with every country as well. Even in the United States, we have a lot of restrictions and things like that that tends to come from a religious place. And the funny thing is, the same people that do things like this are the ones that are so worried about other religions coming in and forcing people to adhere to like Sharia law and shit like that, when technically we already have types of Sharia law. You have laws being made with the only purpose of it being based on the idea of a religion, like Christianity. It's the exact same thing. It's just we don't really look at it that way, which could be very dangerous. I don't really know what the next country I'm going to tackle will be. Probably Iraq. I think I might tackle Iraq next. Now, I remember I did watch one of these. I don't know if it was the Iran video. What I've seen in here doesn't look familiar, so I don't think it's the Iran video. It might have been the Iraq video I've already watched. But I might tackle it again just to go ahead and check it out and, you know, try to reinforce everything that they taught me the first time I saw it. But yeah, I want to go ahead and try to check out some more older countries. Now, once I take care of all of the old countries, like the ones that, like, as far as like the civilizations, the oldest civilizations, then I'll start looking at some of the stuff that people want me to check out, like Germany and the Scandinavian countries and other things like that. So first, I'm going to check out the older stuff. But anyway, if you guys happen to know any other countries I should check out that go in line with oldest civilizations, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below. And I'll be sure to check them out next. But like I said, the next video will probably be Iraq. Anyway, I'm Devon DaVinci. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share. If you did, and be sure to do that. I will go ahead and I think I might have one more video in me. I think I can do it. One more video. Let's go ahead and try that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So I'm Devon DaVinci. You've just been a little bit more enlightened. So I'm going to give you the deuces and hopes I will see you on my next video. So until then, deuces.